Oh, from the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear? Do you hear all the dreams and all the dares, all the sighs and every prayer? They are yours, mine, and theirs. They are yours, mine, and theirs. Oh, they are yours, mine, and theirs. Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you hear?
Pastor David Smith. I've never heard that song quite like that before. Do you hear? In Hebrew, the words "I miss you," they can also be translated in "I am touched by you." For those of you who have your mother with you today, I want you to reach over and take her hand, put your hand on her shoulder, touch her, because don't take this moment for granted. Don't take this moment that she is with you now. And I want those of us whose mothers aren't here, those of us who might be feeling that we miss our mothers, remember the Hebrew, that when we miss someone, it means they are touching us. Feel the touch of your mother with you. What a blessing. In the early service, Reverend Barbara was talking about superheroes. And she asked the congregation who their favorite superheroes are. And people called out the names of their favorite superheroes. And I'm curious, in this gathering, what are some of your favorite superheroes? I'd like to hear some names. Just call it out. Wolverine. Storm. Black Panther. Superman. Supermom. Wonder Woman. Spider-Man. Bugs Bunny, Gerald, all right. Wow. Wow. I'm gonna do the X-Men, I'm gonna do a whole service on that one of these days, but her point was that moms are superheroes. And you know what their superpower is? They can create people. That's a superpower. They can create life. What better definition of mother is there than one who brings new life into the world? So we celebrate today the bringing of new life into the world. And regardless of your gender or your ability to produce people, I want you to think about whether you've ever been called to give birth to something new into the world. Perhaps an idea, an organization, a company, a work of beauty, a movement for change. Have you ever given birth to something that you didn't even know was inside of you? Maybe you're yearning for or running from such a calling right now. Do you hear? Do you hear? Hold that feeling close, that yearning to bring new life into this world. Because today we celebrate the bringing of new life. And bringing new life into the world is not something that we can prepare for, right? Any parents here? Talk to me, somebody. Can you prepare for that? There is no way. Now, mothering used to be the most obvious image and metaphor for God that anyone could think of. Creator, sustainer, nurturer, giver of life and love. One of the great spiritual losses since the spread of Judaism and Christianity and Islam has been, for much of the world, a loss of connection to this idea of the divine feminine. In some of the earliest religious expressions, there are images of holiness in female form, pregnant women, and other images of fertility. Now, it makes perfect sense. The female body is a natural symbol for the divine. We think of the menstrual cycle, which echoes the tides of the sea and the seasons of the year and the cycles of the moon. Women, like the earth, can incubate and produce new life. Women's bodies sustain life, producing milk to nourish babes. All a baby needs when it's born for a long time is the mother, the milk for nourishment and the love and the care. So it makes sense that as an image for the divine, we would have a female. But in Christianity, God is mostly depicted as male. In art, in language, we have God as Father and Jesus as Son. But what about the mother? Well, that takes us to Mary. Mary, the mother of Jesus. I like Mary. You might ask why I like Mary.
Why do you like Mary?
Thank you. You know, for one thing, I like Mary because this is very personal for me, but she's a parent who has lost a child. And as a parent who has lost a child, there's something very special about the connection that I feel towards Mary. And I've seen this image, maybe you've seen it, a Michelangelo sculpture of Mary holding a dead Jesus in her arms. In fact, we have the image of this Michelangelo. It's called the Pieta. And I remember after my daughter died, seeing this image and seeing her face and feeling a connection that I was not alone in what I was feeling. There's something so powerful for me in Mary, and particularly in this image as she holds her dying son in her arms. All of us who've lost children, and I know there's quite a few among us, know this feeling. But this isn't the only reason I love Mary. I like that she was poor, she was a woman, she was young, and she's the one through whom God, we're told, comes into the world. Now, God could have chosen a princess, a queen, someone who's wealthy or of high education and stature, but no. The story says it was the least powerful person, the least assuming person through whom God comes into the world. And it was a mother. God came into the world through a mother. Now, Mary's song of praise, which is in Luke's gospel, in chapter 1 of Luke's gospel, it sings out the very best themes. She, in her voice, sings out the theme. These are the best themes of the prophets, Amos and Micah and all the great prophets, and she puts it into a song. Mary's song tells us that God is coming into this world to upend the status quo for justice, to release the oppressed, to uphold the poor, and to make this world a better place. Listen to how Mary describes the coming of the gospel, in the Gospel of Luke, the coming of Jesus. So she says, and you can read along if you want, God has brought down rulers from their thrones and exalted the poor. God has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. And by rich, she meant those who had money and resources and hoarded them and kept them from themselves, even as people were suffering and dying and needed more. But they would not see because their hearts were closed and they could only think of themselves. Mary was a radical. In today's day and age, you might even call her a Democrat. The words of Mary in the Magnificat were considered so subversive to governments and so inspiring to the poor of the world that during the 1980s, the government in Guatemala banned the public recitation of the Magnificat. No wonder she's so beloved by the world's poor and oppressed. She represents hope. She represents a reversal of fortune and the possibility that justice will someday come. Now, 475 years ago, on a hilltop above Mexico City, barely 10 years after the invasion of Mexico by Cortez and the conquistadors, a native man named Juan Diego was crossing over the hilltop that had for a long time been associated with a goddess. The goddess was known as Tanansan. And on this day, the way he told the story was that at the top, he was surprised by the appearance of a beautiful lady who called to him in his indigenous language. And she was brown-skinned, like many of the locals, and her garments were luminous, it says, and she said, I am the ever virgin, holy Mary, Mother of God. And she wanted him to build a Catholic church and a hermitage right there at the top of this hill on this spot. Now, it took Juan Diego a long time to convince the bishops in Mexico City of his vision. But eventually, they came to believe him, and the church to Mary was built. Now, in this vision, Juan Diego's uncle said that he heard Mary call to him and said that she wanted to be known forevermore as the eternal Virgin Mary of Guadalupe. Now, what I want you to understand is the acceptance of this brown-skinned Virgin Mary had a huge impact. Huge impact. This Mary looked like a mestiza, which was a person of both European and Indian descent. Until then, being of mixed race was considered a scandal, both for the indigenous people as well as for the Europeans. But now, through Mary, a person of mixed race suddenly had a holy face. Now, with this new version of Mary as the Virgin of Guadalupe, people who had been considered less than and at the bottom of the social and cultural order were raised to a new status. Now, once again, there is something subversive to injustice about the veneration of Mary. Now, for me, seeing the role of Mary, I think we have an image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. I'd love to see that. So this is Juan Diego, and he's looking at her, and this is sort of an image of that moment when Mary comes and brings good news to the oppressed, good news to the poor, the reversal of fortune, and the possibility of justice to the people. Now, for me, seeing the role that Mary could play in Christianity is really inspiring. When I see how this mother image of God and how these mother images of God have been suppressed for so long, it makes me yearn for us, you and me, and this place to begin to formulate more religious expressions where traditional male forms of power are balanced with female forms of power. Like that described by Charlene Spretnick, who describes a faith where the wrathful sky god is tempered by the earth mother, and out of this union comes the gospel of love. An Episcopal priest, Reverend Alla Renee Bozarth, wrote this poem to demonstrate how Christian liturgy could evolve to better honor the role of Mary in this story. Listen to this. She reminds us, before Jesus was his mother, before supper in the upper room, there was breakfast in the barn. Before the Passover feast, there was a feeding trough in the manger. And before the altars of earth, fair linens of hay and seed. Before his cry, her cry. Before his sweat of blood, her bleeding and tears. Before his offering, hers. Before the breaking of bread and death, the breaking of her body in birth. Before the offering of the cup, the offering of her breast. Before his blood, her blood. And by her body and blood alone, his body and blood and whole human being. The wise men knelt to hear the woman's word in wonder, holding up her sacred child, her God, in the form of a babe. She said, "Receive and let your hearts be healed and your lives be filled with love. For this is my body. This is my blood." Now that's a different take on the Jesus story, one that honors the sacrifice and the role of Mary as the mother of Jesus. One that balances the male and the feminine role in life and in work and in possibility and the work for justice. Now, in the end, the Bible, religion, all of this is not meant to have us focus on something that happened 2,000 years ago or even 475 years ago, but it's to help us focus on ourselves now and what is our role? What are we being called to do? Do you hear? Are you yearning for or running from some calling? This Mother's Day, when we celebrate the bringing into world of new life, what are you being asked to nourish, to sacrifice for, to lift up? For many of us here at All Souls, one of the things that we're sacrificing for and working towards in the world is the building of our new church in downtown. A new church, a new way to be religious, to offer it to the whole city of Tulsa and the world. How is God, how is Spirit, how is the universe announcing to you that you are the one to bear some divine new possibility into your community, into your church, into your school, your office, your family? A possibility that might subvert the status quo and create a reversal that lifts up those who need it the most. The story of Mary contains a simple and very profound truth. It reminds us that when God enters the world, it is through ordinary people, just like you and me. People who no doubt have already made other plans. Mary was about to get married, as the story goes. You and I together are called to bring new life while we still have breath within us, to bring new life into the world. One of the ways that we're doing this is creating this community of religious expression that balances male and female, masculine and feminine, and all kinds of difference and diversity into a united whole. You are helping to build this, to sustain this, to create this. You are helping to give birth. So happy Mother's Day. Praise be to Mary. Praise be to God. Praise be to the creators of us all. Amen.
You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.